I had no control over what was being written about me, pictures that were being taken. And I suppose I wanted to control that, you know? I could control it with the clothing, I could control my weight. And I was controlling it in an incredibly unhealthy way. When you have an eating disorder, you become very good at lying. And I was never honest about it with my parents. I never talked about it publicly. It really affects you when you're being told constantly you're not good enough.
You know her as Posh Spice, right? The iconic, unsmiling fashionista with that perfect pout. But let me tell you, behind that carefully crafted image was a story of insane pressure, public humiliation, and a secret battle that almost completely broke her. And what you think you know? That's not even the half of it.
So, what was the big secret? What was she hiding behind that famous pout for all those years? Well, while she was one of the most famous women on the entire planet, Victoria Beckham was fighting this silent war with herself, and nobody, not even her closest family, really knew how bad it was.
And here it is in her own words. The core of her struggle? An eating disorder. She admits she got very good at lying. And look, this wasn't just about the crazy pressures of being famous. No, this was a deeply personal battle that started way before the world even knew who Posh Spice was.
Okay, so to really get how things got so out of control, we've got to rewind. Let's go back to the beginning. Way before the Spice Girls, before all the tabloid headlines, this was a private struggle that was, just about to blow up in a very public way. I mean, the public whiplash was just insane. One minute the newspapers are splashing Porky Posh all over the front page. The next, it's Skinny Posh. Can you even imagine dealing with that kind of scrutiny? She said it herself. You lose all sense of what's real. At the end of the day, she just plain didn't like what she saw looking back at her in the mirror. And this whole thing, it started so young. When she was just a teenager at theater school, an instructor, can you believe this? Told her she was overweight and that she'd be stuck at the back. Her own mom talked about how much that damaged her. That feeling, that feeling of not being good enough, it basically became the soundtrack to her entire life. And then, bam, she's catapulted into global superstardom with the Spice Girls, and all that pressure just got dialed up to 1,000.
So just when you think the pressure couldn't possibly get any worse, it does. Her most private, personal struggle was about to be turned into a national TV spectacle. And the timing, it happened at probably one of the most vulnerable moments in any woman's life. Right, we talk about body shaming a lot these days, but what happened to Victoria? It was like the poster child for public humiliation. It's this incredibly cruel thing, right? Making someone's body a topic for public judgment, for entertainment. And her experience was about to play out for millions and millions of people to watch. Okay, so let me set the scene for you. The year is 1999. Victoria has just given birth to her first son, Brooklyn. She's a brand new mom. Her body has just gone through this massive change, and she agrees to be a guest on one of the biggest TV shows in the UK at the time, TFI Friday. And then this happens. The host, Chris Evans, literally pulls out a set of weighing scales and asks her to get on them, live on air, to prove she lost her baby weight. She was only 25 years old, and as she says now, looking back, even though everyone kind of laughed it off in the moment, that hurts. It was a humiliation that just stuck with her for a very long time. So, not long after that whole incident, the Spice Girls craze starts to slow down. The band goes on hiatus. And you'd think maybe that would be a relief for Victoria, right? Less pressure? Nope. For her, the end of the band left this terrifying, empty space. She went from being this global icon to feeling completely and utterly lost.
Right up top.
And for me, it's about educating myself. I realise I have a voice. For whatever reason, people will listen to me, and I want to learn and I want to do whatever I can to make a difference. And I'm learning huge amounts from both Evie and also Michelle. He did. The boys are great and Harper's great, and actually Romeo last year actually ran in the marathon, and he raised money for both UNAIDS and also David's charity as well that he has with UNICEF. So as a family, we want to do whatever we can do to help and make a difference, however big or small that is. But the children definitely want to do their bit too, which we're very proud of.
And the change was just night and day. One minute she's on stage spreading the word of girl power to millions, The next, she's a wife, alone in a flat in Manchester, with basically no friends. Her husband, David, he saw it happening right before his eyes. He said that confident, smiley woman he first fell in love with, she just started to fade away. But this identity crisis, it was about to get overshadowed by something even bigger. A crisis that threatened to take away everything she had.
So, in this search for a new purpose, for a new identity, Victoria poured every last bit of her energy into a new dream, creating her own high-end fashion label. But that dream, well, it was about to become an absolute financial nightmare that would push her right to the edge.
And listen, we're not talking about a small cash flow issue here. Her business was tens of millions of pounds in debt. It was basically on life support, just bleeding money, and was teetering on the very edge of complete collapse. Her entire dream was just crashing and burning.
And the personal cost was just huge. Victoria said she was crying every single day before work, feeling like she was drowning in quicksand, just desperate. And for David, it was heartbreaking. He said watching this incredibly proud woman have to keep asking for more money, it just broke his heart. He knew it couldn't go on like that. The shame, the desperation, it was all just too much.
Okay, hang on. Before we get to how she staged this incredible comeback, I just gotta say, if you're enjoying this deep dive, you know what to do. We post fascinating stories just like this one all the time. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And a huge, huge thank you to all our returning viewers and a big welcome to our new subscribers. Oh, and don't forget to like, comment, and share with your gistmates. All right, let's get back to it. How did she turn this all around?
So here she is, at her absolute lowest point, both personally and professionally. Something had to change. And it was in the most random, unlikely place that she had this moment of clarity. A moment that would lead her to completely reinvent herself and finally go from being this caricature to a real creative powerhouse. All right, so the big turning point, it comes in 2006. Get this, it's the World Cup in Germany. The media is going absolutely bananas over the players' wives and girlfriends. They even coined that term, the WAGs. It was just a total media circus of shopping and partying. But for Victoria, right in the middle of all that noise, she had a life-changing realization.
And this quote she gave, wow, it just says everything. She realized that whole public persona, the wag, the constant attention seeking, it was all just a way for her to stay in the conversation, because deep down, she felt completely unfulfilled as a creative person. She felt incomplete, sad, frozen in time. That moment in Baden-Baden was where she decided to metaphorically bury that old version of herself and go after what she was really passionate about.
And the thing is, she didn't just sit around thinking about it. She took action. Step 1 was that big realization about why she was behaving that way. Step 2, she made a promise to herself. If I ever get another opportunity, I am not going to lose it. And just 2 years later, bam, she launched her own fashion label. And yeah, it was a struggle for years. But in 2017, she landed a £30 million investment that not only saved her business, but proved everyone wrong. It was the ultimate comeback story. You know, her whole journey really shows you something powerful. Sometimes you have to completely let go of the person everyone expects you to be, so you can finally become the person you were meant to be. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What parts of ourselves are we just performing for other people? And what does it really take to find our own true purpose? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining us for this one.
We're here at the Tate Britain.
Just trying to figure out what might have changed since I went home last night. Literally just had to give my bra to one of them. No!
Victoria.
we do this every season. So much, right?
Alright, there we go. Girls gather around the back. Use one here up there. Thank you. Come in, Jason. Come in, Jason. Hi, guys. Just one.
Perfect. Really nice. Thank you, guys. Cool. Gorgeous. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Simon. Simon.
Thank you.